My wife accused me of being too attached to our daughter. She said I was obsessive, overprotective, that something wasn't normal about how much I loved Emma. When she demanded I see a therapist, I simply told her to check our daughter's birth certificate. The color drained from her face instantly. You see, what my wife didn't know was that I had discovered the truth 3 months ago, a truth that would shatter everything she thought she knew about our family. This is the story of how one document exposed a decade of lies, and why my attachment to my daughter was the only thing that saved us both. Before I continue, I'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments below. And if you enjoy stories about family secrets and unexpected twists, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support means everything. Now, let me tell you how everything fell apart. The kitchen was too quiet. That's the first thing I noticed when Rebecca set down her wine glass with more force than necessary. Emma had just gone upstairs to finish her homework, and the silence that followed her departure felt heavy, deliberate. I'd been married to Rebecca long enough to recognize the storm brewing behind her carefully composed expression. "We need to talk about Emma," she said, her fingers drumming against the marble countertop. I looked up from the dishes I was washing, water still dripping from my hands. "What about her? Is everything okay? Did something happen at school?" Rebecca's jaw tightened. "See, that's exactly what I'm talking about, Marcus. That, right there." "What's exactly what you're talking about?" I grabbed a towel, drying my hands slowly, buying time to understand where this conversation was headed. "Your obsession with her." Rebecca stood up, crossing her arms. "The constant hovering, the paranoia, the way you monitor every single aspect of her life like she's going to disappear if you blink." My chest tightened. "I'm her father. I'm supposed to care about..." "Care about? Marcus, you check on her 5 times every night. 5 times. I've counted." Rebecca's voice was rising now, 10 years of apparent frustration finally finding its voice. "You won't let my mother babysit her alone. My own mother? You've memorized every single entry in her medical records. You know the exact distance from our house to her school, 0.7 miles. You told me last week. What father knows that?" "A careful one," I said quietly. "A careful one? Marcus, last month you called the school 3 times because Emma was 20 minutes late getting out of her art class. 20 minutes. The teacher thought we were going through a crisis." I set the towel down, meeting her eyes. "Maybe I just love my daughter." "No, this isn't normal love. This is something else." Rebecca moved closer, and I could smell the wine on her breath. "Sarah's husband doesn't act like this. Jennifer's husband doesn't treat his kids like they're made of glass. You won't even let Emma sleep over at her best friend's house. Melissa's parents don't lock their medication cabinet," I said, my voice even. "And you interrogated a 9-year-old about her friend's home security measures? Do you hear yourself?" Rebecca's eyes were wide now, almost desperate. "I've tried to understand. I've tried to be patient. But Marcus, this isn't healthy, for you or for Emma." I could feel my heart pounding, but I kept my expression neutral. If only she knew. If only she understood why every instinct in my body screamed to protect Emma, to keep her close, to never let her out of my sight. "I think you need help," Rebecca continued, softer now, but somehow more cutting. "I think you need to talk to someone, a therapist, because this level of attachment, Marcus, it's not normal. It's almost like..." "Like what?" She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Like you're afraid someone's going to take her away from you, like you know something I don't." My blood ran cold. Did she suspect? Had she figured out that I knew? "Rebecca," I started, but she held up her hand. "I've made an appointment for you. Dr. Chen, next Tuesday at 4. She specializes in anxiety disorders, and..." "I'm not going." "You need to go." "No," I said firmly. "I don't." Rebecca's face flushed. "Marcus, this is non-negotiable. Your behavior is affecting our daughter. Do you know Emma asked me last week why you act so scared all the time? She's noticing. She's internalizing your paranoia." "I'm protecting her." "From what?" Rebecca threw her hands up. From playdates? From her grandmother? From having a normal childhood? What exactly are you protecting her from? The words were right there, balanced on the tip of my tongue. From you, Rebecca. From the lies you've told. From the truth you've buried. But I swallowed them back down. Not yet, until I had everything in place. You wouldn't understand. Then make me understand. Make me understand why my husband, who used to be so easygoing, so trusting, has turned into someone who treats our home like a prison and our daughter like a prisoner. Make me understand why you installed security cameras in every room except the bathrooms. Make me understand why you have a binder, an actual 3-ring binder with Emma's complete medical history, school records, and emergency protocols. Those are practical things, responsible things. Responsible? Rebecca moved to the kitchen drawer and pulled it open, producing the binder I kept there. She slammed it on the counter. This is 147 pages, Marcus. 147 pages about a 9-year-old girl. It includes her blood type, her vaccination records going back to birth, the names and phone numbers of 3 backup pediatricians, a list of every medication she's ever taken with dates and dosages, and she flipped to a marked page, a hand-drawn map of the school with 3 different evacuation routes highlighted. I didn't respond. Every word she said was true. Every behavior she described I had exhibited. And I would do it all again, because I knew what she didn't, what she had hidden from me for almost 10 years. I talked to Lisa, she said quietly, Sarah's sister, the psychologist. She said this kind of hypervigilance, this obsessive need to control every variable in a child's life, it can be a sign of deeper trauma, or guilt, or maybe, I interrupted, my voice deadly calm, I just know things you don't. What does that mean? It means, I said, walking over to where she stood, my attachment to Emma isn't excessive. It's appropriate. It's necessary. And if you can't understand why, maybe you should do some investigating of your own. Investigating? Marcus, what are you talking about? I held her gaze, watching the confusion flicker across her face. 3 months. I'd been carrying the secret for 3 months, gathering evidence, consulting lawyers, building my case. And now, watching her stand there with such righteous certainty, such complete conviction in her own narrative, I felt the words rising up unstoppable. Check her birth certificate, I said softly. The blood drained from her face instantly. Her mouth opened, then closed. Her hand gripped the counter so hard her knuckles went white. What? Her voice was barely a whisper. You heard me, I said, each word deliberate. Go upstairs. Go to your filing cabinet, the one you keep locked. Get out Emma's birth certificate, the original one. And then come back down here and tell me I'm too attached to my daughter. She stood frozen for a long moment, her face cycling through emotions, fear, anger, panic, calculation. Finally, without a word, she turned and walked toward the stairs, each step measured and heavy. I listened to her footsteps on the stairs, heard the bedroom door close, heard the sound of the filing cabinet drawer opening, and I stood there in the kitchen, alone with the truth that was about to tear our family apart. The truth I'd discovered 3 months ago. The truth that explained everything. 3 months earlier. The envelope from Westbridge Elementary had been sitting on my desk for a week. Required documents for grade 4 enrollment. Updated birth certificate, immunization records, proof of residence. Simple enough. Rebecca was in Chicago for a conference, wouldn't be back until Sunday. I had the whole weekend to get Emma's paperwork in order. I knew Rebecca kept important documents in the filing cabinet in our bedroom. She'd always been meticulous about organization, everything labeled, everything in its place. I'd never had reason to go through it before. She handled all the administrative aspects of our lives, and I'd been grateful for it. The key was in her jewelry box, exactly where she'd mentioned it once, years ago. The cabinet drawer slid open smoothly, revealing neat hanging folders with color-coded tabs, birth certificates, medical records, insurance, property deeds.
everything perfectly arranged. I pulled out the folder marked Emma, birth certificate, and opened it. The document inside was exactly what I expected. Emma Rose Harrison, born April 14, 2016, at St. Mary's Hospital. Mother, Rebecca Ann Harrison. Father, Marcus James Harrison. Weight, 6 pounds, 4 ounces. Nothing unusual. Nothing alarming. I was about to close the folder when I noticed it felt thicker than it should. My fingers found the edge of another document, tucked behind the first. This birth certificate was different. Older. The paper slightly yellowed, the edges worn. But the name at the top made my heart stop. Kira Mitchell. Same date, same hospital, same weight, same time, 11:47 p.m. But the mother's name read Kira Elizabeth Mitchell, and the father's name, Marcus James Harrison. The room tilted. I sat down hard on the bed, both certificates spread before me like accusations. My hands were shaking so badly the papers rattled. Kira Mitchell. The name sparked something, a distant memory, fragile as smoke. Rebecca had a younger sister. I'd heard the name maybe once or twice in all our years together. She died, Rebecca said. Some kind of accident. It was too painful to discuss. I'd never pushed, respecting her grief. But this wasn't an accident. This was Emma. My Emma. I stared at both documents, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. One showed Rebecca as Emma's mother. The other showed her sister, this Kira, as the mother. Both listed my name as the father. Both were from the same hospital, same date, same time. My mind raced through impossible scenarios. Twins? No, that made no sense. Switched at birth? But why would both certificates have my name? The only explanation that fit made my stomach turn. Emma wasn't Rebecca's biological daughter. She was Kira's. And somehow Rebecca had altered the records, inserting herself as the mother. But if Kira was Emma's biological mother and I was the father, that meant... I tried to remember. 10 years ago. Had I ever met Kira? I searched my memory desperately, but found only fog. Rebecca and I were dating then, not yet married. There were parties, family gatherings, nights that blurred together. But I had no memory of her sister. No memory of anyone named Kira. My phone was in my hand before I consciously decided to make the call. David Chen had been my college roommate. More importantly, he was now a private investigator, specializing in background checks and family law cases. Marcus? It's been months, man. What's going on? I need your help, and I need you to keep this completely confidential. The pause that followed told me he understood the gravity in my voice. Of course. What do you need? I need you to find everything you can about someone named Kira Elizabeth Mitchell. Date of death approximately 10 years ago, related to a Rebecca Ann Mitchell, now Harrison. And David, I need hospital records from St. Mary's Hospital, April 14th, 2016. Whatever you can legally access. That's a tall order. Hospital records are... I know. Do what you can. I'll pay whatever it costs. Give me a week. It took David 9 days. 9 days of pretending everything was normal. 9 days of looking at Rebecca across the dinner table, watching her read Emma bedtime stories, and wondering what kind of person I'd married. When David finally called, I met him at a coffee shop 40 minutes from home. The folder he slid across the table was thin, but it felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. This wasn't easy, he said quietly. Kira Mitchell died April 14, 2016 at 11:52 p.m., 5 minutes after giving birth. Emergency C-section, massive hemorrhaging, they couldn't save her. My chest contracted. Emma's birthday. The day Kira died was the day Emma was born. Rebecca was listed as emergency contact and next of kin. She was at the hospital for the birth. She took custody of the infant that same night. Her sister had designated her as guardian in a handwritten will found in her apartment. What about the father? David's expression darkened. That's where it gets complicated. The original birth certificate, the one you found, lists you as the father, but there's no record of you being at the hospital that day, no record of you signing anything. In fact, he pulled out another document. You were at a work conference in Boston on April 13 through 16. I pulled your travel records. That's impossible. If I'm the father, I had to have been there 9 months earlier, around July 2015. July 19, 2015. Rebecca's parents' 35th anniversary party. According to social media posts, both you and Kira were there. There are photos of you at the party, but you look... He paused uncomfortably. I stared at the photograph. It was me, unmistakably. But my eyes were unfocused, my posture slack. I was being supported by someone, Rebecca, her arm around my waist. You look drugged, David finished quietly. The memories slammed into me with physical force. That party, the gaps in my recollection. Waking up the next morning with Rebecca beside me, a massive headache and a gnawing sense that something was wrong. Rebecca had laughed it off. You got a little too friendly with the whiskey last night, she had said. Don't worry, I got you home safe. I'd believed her. I'd trusted her. There's more, David said. His voice gentle now. I tracked down one of Kira's friends, woman named Jennifer Torres. She was Kira's roommate. She still has some of Kira's belongings, things Rebecca never collected, including a diary. He pulled out a photocopy of handwritten pages. The writing was feminine, looping, desperate. Rebecca said it was a gift. She said Marcus would never know. She said one night wouldn't matter, that he wouldn't remember anything. But I can't stop thinking about it. What she did to him. What I let her do. I'm pregnant and I don't know how to tell anyone that the father doesn't even know I exist. The words blurred. My hands were shaking again. I read entry after entry, watching a story of coercion, manipulation, and assault unfold in the handwriting of a dead woman. Kira had been depressed, suicidal even. Rebecca had presented this as a solution, a baby, a purpose, a reason to live, and she'd used me as the instrument without my knowledge or consent. Emma was my daughter, my biological daughter, born from an assault I didn't remember to a woman I'd never known I'd met, orchestrated by the woman I'd married. Marcus? David's voice broke through. Are you okay? I looked up at him, and I knew my face must have shown the devastation I felt. No, I said. But I will be, because now I know the truth, and Rebecca is going to answer for every single lie. I gathered the documents, every piece of evidence, every copied page of that diary, and I began to plan. The diary pages haunted me. I read them obsessively in the weeks that followed, each entry revealing another layer of the nightmare Rebecca had orchestrated. Kira's words painted a portrait of a vulnerable young woman, manipulated by the sister she trusted most. March 3rd, 2016, 1 month until my due date. Rebecca keeps saying she'll be the best aunt, that she'll help me with everything. But there's something in her eyes when she looks at my stomach, something hungry. It scares me. I sat in my car outside Emma's school, waiting for dismissal, the diary photocopies on my passenger seat. David had given me everything Jennifer Torres had preserved, 14 months of entries spanning from the party to Kira's death. March 28th, 2016. I told Rebecca I want him to know. She got so angry. She said it would ruin her relationship. that Marcus would never forgive either of us. She said if I told him, she'd make sure I never saw my baby. I don't understand how she became this person. My phone buzzed. David. I've got the hospital records. You need to see these. Can you meet tonight? That evening in David's office, above a Thai restaurant, he spread documents across his desk like evidence at a crime scene. The original birth certificate was filed by the hospital, David explained, pointing to timestamps and signatures. Kira Mitchell, mother. Marcus Harrison, father. Based on Kira's written statement. Standard procedure when the mother identifies the father but he's not present. And the second certificate? That's where it gets criminal. David pulled out another set of papers. 2 weeks after Kira's death, Rebecca filed paperwork claiming there was an error in the original certificate. She provided a notarized letter stating that she was the biological mother and that the hospital had mistakenly listed her deceased sister due to confusion in the delivery room. That's insane. How did she get away with that? She had leverage. She was listed as guardian. She had Kira's will. And, this is the crucial part, she presented a backdated surrogacy agreement. My blood ran cold. A surrogacy agreement? David nodded grimly. Completely fabricated, but professionally done. It claimed that Kira was acting as a surrogate for you and Rebecca, that the pregnancy was the result of artificial insemination, and that Rebecca was always intended to be the legal mother. She even forged Kira's signature. I had a handwriting analyst compare it to the diary. It's not even close. But someone must have verified. They did. They called the fertility clinic listed in the agreement. Want to guess who answered? The clinic had gone out of business 6 months earlier. The phone number was forwarded to a cell phone. Rebecca's old number, according to phone records. She literally verified her own fraud. I felt sick. The depth of planning, the calculated deception, this wasn't a panic decision. This was premeditated. There's more, David continued. I spoke with 3 people who attended that anniversary party. All of them remember you acting strangely that night. One woman, Rebecca's cousin, said she saw Rebecca putting something in your drink. When she asked about it, Rebecca said it was just vitamin B, that you'd complained about being tired. And after, did anyone see me with Kira? David's silence was answer enough. Finally, he said, 2 witnesses saw Rebecca leading you to one of the upstairs bedrooms around 10 p.m. Kira went upstairs about 15 minutes later. You came down alone around midnight, barely coherent. Rebecca drove you home. The room felt too small, too airless. She planned it. All of it. Every detail. David pulled out a final document. I also found this. Kira's medical records from a crisis counseling session 2 weeks after the party. She told a therapist that she'd been coerced into a sexual situation by a family member and that she was afraid she might be pregnant. The therapist recommended she file a police report. She never did. Because the family member was Rebecca, I said quietly, and Rebecca was the only family she had left. The pieces were assembling into a picture so ugly I could barely look at it. Rebecca had drugged me, used me to impregnate her depressed sister, and then stolen the resulting child after Kira's death. And for 9 years, she'd played the role of devoted mother while knowing the truth. But why? That was the question that kept me up at night. I found the answer in another diary entry, dated 2 weeks before the party. July 5th, 2015. Rebecca told me today that she can't have children, something about uterine scarring from an infection years ago. She cried for hours. She said she'd never be a real woman, never give Marcus the family he deserves. I felt so bad for her. I told her there were other options, adoption, surrogates. She just kept saying it won't be the same. There it was. Rebecca couldn't have children, so she manufactured a solution that gave her everything she wanted. A biological child connected to me, a daughter she could claim as her own, and the erasure of the sister she'd always seen as competition. David had one more document to show me. This is the custody filing template I've prepared. Based on the evidence, the fraud, the assault, the forged documents, you have grounds for emergency custody and criminal charges. But Marcus, you need to understand what you're starting. This will destroy your marriage. It will devastate Emma, and Rebecca will fight back with everything she has. I thought about Emma, sleeping peacefully in her room, unaware that her entire identity was built on lies. I thought about Kira, dying alone in a hospital bed, never getting to see her daughter grow up. I thought about the 10 years I'd lost, not knowing I was raising my own biological child. Do it, I said. File everything. I want full custody, and I want fraud charges filed. Emma deserves to know the truth about who she is, and Kira deserves justice even if it comes 10 years too late. David nodded, already reaching for his phone. I'll need you to give a formal statement to the police. The assault charge will be complicated. It's been 10 years, and the case will rest heavily on Kira's diary entries and witness testimony. I understand. And Marcus, you need to prepare yourself. Rebecca is going to claim she did this for Emma's benefit. She's going to paint herself as the hero who saved a child from foster care. She's going to make you look paranoid, vindictive, and unstable. Let her try. I stood up, gathering the copies of evidence David had prepared. I have the truth. I have documentation. And I have something else Rebecca doesn't have. What's that? I actually love Emma for who she is, not for what she represents. I headed towards the door, then paused. Rebecca sees Emma as a trophy, proof of her own worthiness. I see Emma as my daughter, Kira's daughter, and I'm going to make sure she knows where she came from. That night, I began documenting everything, every instance of Rebecca's behavior over the years that now made sense in this new context. The way she dismissed Emma's questions about family history, how she'd cut off all contact with Kira's friends after the funeral, the locked filing cabinet, the reluctance to share baby photos. All of it had been there, hiding in plain sight. And in 2 months, when everything was in place, I'd set the truth free. I'd simply tell Rebecca to check the birth certificate and watch her world collapse. The minutes stretched like hours. I stood in the kitchen, listening to Rebecca's footsteps overhead, the creak of the floorboards, the metallic scrape of the filing cabinet drawer. I'd replaced the altered birth certificate with the original one just yesterday, knowing this moment would come. When Rebecca finally appeared at the top of the stairs, she was gripping the banister so hard her knuckles had gone white. In her other hand, she clutched the birth certificate, the real one, with Kira's name. Where did you get this? Her voice was barely above a whisper. From your filing cabinet. It was tucked behind the fake one, the one you created. She descended slowly, each step deliberate. Marcus, I can explain. Can you? I leaned against the counter, forcing myself to appear calm, even though my heart was hammering. Can you explain why my daughter's birth certificate lists your dead sister as her mother? Can you explain why you've been lying to me for 9 years? Rebecca's face cycled through expressions: fear, calculation, defiance. She set the certificate on the kitchen table. I saved her. When Kira died, Emma would have gone into the system. I gave her a home. I gave her a family. You stole her. The words came out flat, factual. You stole my daughter and made me believe she wasn't mine. She is mine! Rebecca's voice cracked. I raised her. I was there for every nightmare, every scraped knee, every first day of school. Biology doesn't make you a parent, Marcus. Love does. Don't you dare talk to me about love. I pushed off the counter. You drugged me, Rebecca. July 19th, 2015. Your parents' anniversary party. You put something in my drink, and then I couldn't even say it. You used me to get Kira pregnant. The color drained from her face. You don't know what you're talking about. I have Kira's diary. I pulled out my phone, pulled up the photos I'd taken of the pages. 14 months of entries. She wrote about everything. How you told her it was a gift. How you convinced her I wouldn't remember. How you threatened her when she wanted to tell me the truth. Her jaw clenched. Kira was suicidal. She was depressed, lost, couldn't hold down a job. She needed purpose. I gave that to her. You manipulated her. You manipulated both of us. And then when Kira died giving birth to my daughter, you saw your opportunity. You forged documents. You lied to hospitals, to courts, to me. You erased Kira and inserted yourself. Because Emma needed a mother, she shouted. What was I supposed to do? Let them put her in foster care? Let her grow up knowing her father didn't even know she existed? I didn't know because you made sure I didn't know. You got what you wanted anyway. Her eyes were wild now. You got a daughter, you got a family. What difference does it make whose name is on some piece of paper? The difference is truth, Rebecca. Emma deserves to know where she came from. She deserves to know about Kira. She laughed, harsh and bitter. Kira? Kira was a mess. A beautiful, broken mess who couldn't take care of herself, let alone a baby. I'm the one who turned Emma into the amazing girl she is. Me, not some ghost you're trying to resurrect. And that's what this was really about, wasn't it? I pulled out another document David had obtained. The medical record. You couldn't have children. The uterine scarring. So you decided to create a child from me using your sister as a surrogate without either of us consenting. Her face crumpled. I loved you. I wanted to give you a family. Is that so wrong? You assaulted me, Rebecca. What you did, what you orchestrated, that's rape. And then you built a decade of lies on top of it. No, you're twisting this. I made a family. I made us whole. You made a crime scene. I pulled out the final set of papers from my jacket pocket. These are custody filings. Emergency custody based on fraud and falsification of documents. I filed them this morning. She staggered backward. You can't take her from me. I'm not taking her from you. You never had legal custody in the first place. Kira's will named you guardian, but you altered that too. The original will specified until the father can be identified and contacted. You removed that clause. No one will believe you. But her voice wavered. I'm on the birth certificate. I've been her mother for 9 years. No judge will. I have the original birth certificate. I have Kira's diary. I have witness statements from the party. I have the forged surrogacy agreement with Kira's faked signature confirmed by handwriting analysis. I watched her face as each piece of evidence landed. I have hospital records showing Kira died and you appeared 2 weeks later with fabricated documents. Rebecca, I have everything. She collapsed into a chair, her breath coming in gasps. I did it for us, for our family. You did it for yourself, because you couldn't stand the thought of not having what you wanted. Marcus, please. Tears streamed down her face. Emma doesn't need to know any of this. We can just keep things the way they are. I'll admit I made mistakes, but Emma is happy. Don't destroy that. She deserves the truth. She's 9 years old. You want to tell a 9-year-old that her entire life is a lie? I want to tell her who her real mom was. I want to tell her about Kira. Daddy. We both froze. Emma stood at the bottom of the stairs in her pajamas, her stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. Her eyes were red, her face streaked with tears. Emma, sweetheart. Rebecca started. I heard. Emma's voice was small. I heard everything. My heart shattered. Emma, baby, how much did you... You're really my daddy? She looked at me with eyes that were Kira's eyes. I could see it now, how I'd missed it before. Like, really, really? I crossed to her, knelt down to her level. Yes, I'm your biological father. I always have been. And mommy isn't really my mommy? Rebecca made a sound like a wounded animal. Emma, I am your mother. I raised you. I love you. Emma looked between us, confusion and hurt warring on her face. But you lied. You lied about everything. I was protecting you. From what? Emma's voice rose. From knowing where I came from? From knowing my real mom? Your real mom died, Emma. She's gone. Her name was Kira, and she loved you very much. She wanted you more than anything. Emma's tears fell faster. I want to see her. I want to see my real mom. We can look at pictures, I promised. We can visit where she's buried. I'll tell you everything I've learned about her. No, Rebecca stood up suddenly. No, I won't allow this. Marcus, I swear to you, if you try to take her... It's already done, I said quietly. The police will be here tomorrow. You'll be arrested for fraud, forgery, and, I glanced at Emma, other charges we'll discuss privately. Rebecca's face twisted with rage and desperation. You bastard! You absolute bastard! After everything I've done? Get out, I said. Get out of this house. Right now. This is my house, my daughter. Emma, I said, not taking my eyes off Rebecca. Go upstairs, pack a bag. We're going to stay at Grandma's tonight. My mother's? No. Kira's mother. Your mother. Emma's real grandmother. She's been waiting 9 years to meet her granddaughter. Rebecca's face went completely white. You contacted them? They had a right to know, just like Emma has a right to know them. Emma ran upstairs. The sound of her door closing was like a gunshot in the silence. Rebecca and I stood facing each other, the ruins of our marriage scattered between us. I'll fight this, she said finally. I'll fight you with everything I have. I know, but you'll lose because I have something you don't. What's that? The truth.
The morning sun filtered through the kitchen windows of our new apartment, smaller than the house, but it felt more like home than anywhere we'd lived before. Emma sat at the table, carefully spreading peanut butter on her toast, her hair pulled back in the same ponytail Kira wore in the photos we'd framed throughout our home. Daddy? She'd started calling me that instead of Daddy about 2 months ago, said it felt more grown up. Can we visit Mom's grave after school today? My chest tightened the way it always did when she called Kira Mom. Not because it hurt, because it felt right in a way I'd never expected. Of course, it's Friday, so we have time. The custody hearing had been brutal. Rebecca hired 3 lawyers and fought every allegation. She painted me as an obsessive, paranoid husband who'd manufactured evidence to steal her daughter. She claimed Kira's diary was forged. She said the witnesses were lying. She even suggested I'd somehow altered the birth certificate myself. But the evidence was overwhelming. The forensic document analysis proved the surrogacy agreement was fake. Hospital staff testified about Rebecca's suspicious behavior when filing the amended birth certificate. Kira's therapist broke confidentiality, citing duty to protect, and described Kira's trauma. The criminal charges came next: fraud, forgery, and, after weeks of legal debate, facilitation of sexual assault. Rebecca's lawyer argued too much time had passed, that I'd consented by being at the party, but Kira's diary entries were damning. Multiple witnesses testified to seeing Rebecca put something in my drink. Rebecca pled guilty to the fraud and forgery. The assault charge was dropped as part of the plea agreement, something that still made my stomach turn.
She received 18 months in prison and permanent loss of parental rights. Emma had struggled. Some days she was angry at me for taking away Mom Rebecca. Other days she was angry at Rebecca for lying. Most days she was just confused and sad. Therapy helped. Dr. Sarah Chin specialized in children dealing with family trauma. She gave Emma tools to process the betrayal, the loss, the complete restructuring of her identity. "It's okay to love Rebecca," Dr. Chin told Emma during one session I attended. "Love doesn't disappear just because someone did wrong things, but it's also okay to be angry. Both feelings can be true at the same time." Emma clung to that. She kept a photo of Rebecca in her room, just one, from when Emma was 5, both of them laughing at the beach. Some nights she cried for Mom Rebecca. I held her and let her grieve. But slowly she began to embrace Kira's memory too. Kira's parents, Emma's biological grandparents, Patricia and Robert Mitchell, had sobbed when they first met Emma. "She has Kira's smile," Patricia whispered, touching Emma's cheek with trembling fingers. "Oh, sweetheart, you have your mother's beautiful smile." They shared everything: photo albums spanning Kira's childhood, stories about her love of painting, her terrible singing voice, her fierce loyalty to the people she loved. Emma absorbed it all, hungry for connection to the mother she'd never known. Kira wanted to be a teacher, Patricia told Emma one afternoon. She loved children. She volunteered at the library reading to kids every Saturday. "Really?" Emma's eyes lit up. "I love reading." "Just like your mama," Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. For my part, I was processing my own trauma. My therapist, Dr. Michael Rodriguez, helped me understand that what happened to me had a name, that being drugged and used without consent was assault, regardless of the resulting child I loved. "You can love Emma and still acknowledge that her conception was a violation," Dr. Rodriguez said. "Those truths don't cancel each other out." It took months before I could say it out loud. I was raped. Even longer before I could say it without my voice breaking. But Emma was healing. Slowly, gradually, she was becoming whole. Last week, she'd written me a letter. I found it on my pillow one evening after tucking her in. "Dear Dad, I know everything has been really confusing. Sometimes I'm still mad and sad, but I wanted to tell you thank you for telling me the truth. Miss Chin says honesty is love, even when it's hard. I think I understand now why you were so attached to me. You knew something was wrong, even when you didn't know what it was. You were protecting me the whole time. I wish I could have met my real mom, Kira, but Grandma Patricia says that part of her lives in me.